Thanks for tuning in to Hustle and Hearts. I am your host, Edie Weintraub. Today we have the pleasure of chatting with a friend of mine, Amy Calandrino, and I'm very excited to hear what she's up to as she's sharing with us a new book that she's written. So without further ado, Amy, share with our audience a little bit about you.
Yes, so I'm Amy Calandrino, and I'm in Orlando. I am the CEO and founder of Beyond Commercial. We exist to help small business owners with their commercial real estate needs, with an emphasis on creating generational wealth. I also am an investor myself. I am a speaker and now an author, and I have my own podcast, The Performance Mindset Show, which you have been on. I have two young kids. I love life. I love Orlando, and things are amazing.
So I'm very excited to hear about your book because it's a goal of mine to do a TED Talk and to write a book. And I think I'm suffering from a little bit of analysis paralysis. So how did you ultimately land on your topic and know that this is it? I'm going for it.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of an evolution. I wrote about it in the book that I was at the lowest mindset of my life in 2021. My marriage wasn't very good. My business wasn't very good. I was suffering greatly from postpartum depression. I had my two children 15 months apart. And, I expanded my business without necessarily having a plan. So I just did not feel very good about myself. I didn't want to continue. I wanted to close my brokerage down and just eat bonbons and feel sorry for myself, which is not like me whatsoever. And I was planning to attend the Commercial Real Estate Influencers Summit. It was going to be their first year. I was on the list and I was tempted. They said, you can ask for a refund. This is like post-COVID, very close post-COVID. No questions asked. I'm like, well, that would be easy. But then something told me to go. So I went ahead and went. And while I was there, it was almost like I was plugged into an energy source. Like I needed to get out of my surroundings and get out there. And once I was there, I was around a lot of really uplifting people. And I started to be a little bit more vulnerable. And I also then learned about podcasting, and I'm one of those people, if I want to do something, I'm going to find a way to trick myself and make myself accountable to it. Let's just say I want to get into running, then I'm going to book a half marathon. If I want to visit somewhere, I'm just going to book the darn plane ticket. I'm just going to do it. That's how I typically do. So I said, why don't I just have a podcast? So I decided to start a podcast and make it about and through that journey and through everybody I was around and through all the studying, I'm like, oh, wait. Most of these really super prolific people had a really shitty experience, so to speak, and that they came out of and they were glorious and they bounced back. So that's really kind of what happened with my book. So I started this podcast. I was asked to be a keynote speaker for the Orlando Business Journal at the Women Who Mean Business. And everybody was just like, oh my God, they were just blown away by the story in the book. Obviously, it was a kind of a condensed for the keynote speech. And they were like, and I created what was called the sports success system following this. So I find also my life to be successful, having a system and a construct to follow and healthy habits and those types of things are key for me to be successful. I created what was called the sports success system, and that's what I shared with that audience. And people were like, why don't you make this into the book? And I'm like, why don't I make this into a book? So it had to be. No more than 1 week later, I'm speaking with a business broker that has sold a couple of my family's businesses. His name is George Rosen, and he's helped, I know you're heavy into retail, so my mother-in-law, she had over her career from 1977 to 2015, 7 different flower and gift shops. She'd build it up, sell it, build it up, sell it, build it. She was a great entrepreneur lady. I talk about her in the book as well. And that business broker that sold her last 2, I just happened to mention, I'm like, I think I'm going to write a book. And he's like, I know someone who could help you write a book. So there we go.
It just serendipitously came together, of course.
Synchronicity and energy, almost like pixie dust, will fly out into the universe and it will make it happen. And you can't ignore it. Right.
No. But that you were open to hearing it because there was something in you that said, yes, I'm in this funk, but I know that I need this right now. So it was good that you started that journey and built those connections, and it brought us here to From Perfect to Real. Even the title is just perfect or real.
Perfectly imperfect. Yeah.
So I love that you and I both have this in common because I think we both love working with small business owners. When you opened your brokerage, what was the turning point that you said, like, I'm doing it this way versus from what I have been exposed to or experienced that others do? How did you find the calling and the path that you're on today?
It's kind of funny. I always wanted to do it this way. And when I had the really bad mindset and I was in the grips of postpartum depression, was when I decided, I want to have this big brokerage and I want to do everything, and let's do corporate and institutional deals, and let's take everything and let's quadruple our expenses. That is when I got away from it. So it was almost like this whole journey was just getting back to myself, but an even better version of myself. But no, from day one of starting my brokerage, it was easy for me to say that I wanted to do this because I worked in a small business law firm. I think we have that legal connection as well. When I spoke about this kind of none of the other brokerages really interested. Like you're going to make a lot more money on these other deals, but at the end of the day, for me, it's more impactful. So I always knew from day one, this is what I wanted to do. And I stayed true to that for a really long time until I just had this thinking that bigger is better. And there wasn't the purpose and the intention behind it. And then, so it's kind of like then coming back to, but actually with a better roadmap. I would say when I was in the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, how can I help you, business owner? And it was good. I provided some good solutions, but I think my advice is even stronger, and I can show my own family's example of buying owner-occupied commercial real estate and how that could help to create a portfolio. I think I have that going for me as well as a lot of other things.
Absolutely. So how do you balance then the numbers with the people focus? Because there's always, I find that I tell people that if you're looking at spreadsheets all day long, I'm probably not the right broker for you, because I very much, yes, that is a tool. We need the data. We need the support. We also serve those who serve others. And so we secret shop our clients before we take them on to work with. So I want to make sure that there is a healthy balance and that they're just not so over-focused on the numbers. How do you approach that? Yeah.
So client vetting and figuring out if someone's a good client, I still love what you say. And so I would say a lot of our business is referral based, and how do I vet? I mean, just really getting an understanding of their business plan. I also want to ask them a little bit more about them. What are their goals? What are their aspirations? And try to see if there's anyone else that knows them, and then if I'm sensing any friction in our relationship where they don't trust me, or they're overly negative, they're not patient, they're not providing us the runway to do what we need to do after I tell them from day one we're in a tight vacancy. You want that, because at the end of the day, if you help, even if they want an A, is not going to be the right thing for them. I have actually too just said, I'm done. I'm not going to put my name on this. So I don't go as far as like secret shopping, but I do an extensive amount of online research. We intro call. I can't tell you how many people email me and it's like, send me your best commission rates for listing this property and send it over to me and send me what you would do. I'm like, we're not doing any of that unless we have an intro call. And they're like, well, email's preferred. And I'm like, well, we're not the right fit.
Yeah. We're not jiving.
So if somebody doesn't want to invest the time, if they're too busy to have an intro call, or they only want to do things their way, and we have a way, we're the Sherpas, we can lead you up the mountain. Obviously, you're coming to us for a service. I'm not going to tell you how to run your restaurant or your law firm or whatever kind of business you have. I don't expect you to tell me how to run my brokerage.
We were on a pitch, one of my partners and I, and we were staring at a screen of blackness. No one had turned their screen on, not even the initial contact that brought the relationship together. And so here I've got my camera on, my partner has a camera on, we're talking to basically no one. And I got off the call. And I called my partner and I said, I'm not even ready to move forward. I'm going to call them and tell them that we're redacting our interest in this assignment, because not even the person who coordinated was respectful enough to come on, introduce their team, let us know who we were speaking with, and then turn the microphone over to us. So we didn't even take it further because I'm going, you guys don't care enough to be respectful and even just to show your face and let us know your names, that we didn't even move forward. We just pulled the plug.
It is interesting. Yeah, I have a really cool group right now that's up to almost 24 locations across the U.S. that I'm actually co-broking with another broker. Nicest people, and they always have their screens on, and they always have a smile. And like, I just want nothing but success for them. But yeah, there is just a lack of, if you're a people person and you have a lot more emotion into things, and rather than the analytical side of things, which the analytical side matters. But if you're speaking to a black screen, yeah, that is really frustrating.
It was a big red flag for us to understand how uncommunicative they're going to be going forward. So I feel like we knew very early on that this was not a good fit. But conversely, I know that you and I both love spaces that spark connection. So what have you seen make a property or a space feel something more that invites you in? What is that sticky factor? What's that lure to come into a space?
That's a great question. I've been seeing a lot more spaces be more experiential as far as like a smell. So I have a really cool client. They're called Lux Med Spa and Aesthetics. And so I have them now in downtown Orlando. They have their own scent all through the space. They have their own line of candles and everything. So you're going to come home and light your Lux candle, and all you're going to think of is that wonderful experience that you had at Lux. And I'm seeing other folks do that, have their own signature scents for their space. And I think that's just super cool.
I recognize that, as we were just talking a moment ago about ICSC in Vegas and all of that, that there are, casinos that have their own smell, right? Like the Bellagio has its own aura, the Paris has its own aura. So whether your eyes are completely open or not, where you are by smell. So I think that's really important though, because it is full sensory immersion. And I think that's really where you get that sticky factor of people remembering you. Coincidentally, I was at Cirque du Soleil, I think the first Cirque I had ever gone to, and someone in the audience had this perfume on. And so every time I smell this perfume, I think about that moment in Cirque du Soleil, and I can't get it out of my head. And I've since fallen in love with that perfume, and I've gotten it. And then, every time I smell it, it just gives me happy memories. So I think that's a good sticky factor.
The Carlisle Hotel in New York City has its own smell. And I've tried to make it yet, and I have not been successul, but I will keep trying. I think
you're into candle making now?
Lock and key, huh?
Perfumes? What is this new
candle? I like to make candles.
So I'm going to add that to your resume, another craft that you're working on. My family laughs at me because I just thought sourdough was the hardest thing. And I said, you know what? Sucking this up, doing it. I don't care if I have to throw out some here and there, but I think I finally got it. Because, it's just that like personal challenge.
Travel. What do you do when you travel with the sourdough?
So I stick it in the fridge. I said, okay, I've got to be home for a couple weeks. I got to figure this out. I'm going to try to do it every day so that I can start, pushing myself to experiment and try, because it's here and it's overflowing and I need to do it. But then I found the cadence of not being handcuffed to it, where I stick it in the fridge. However, it's very important because it helps me prepare to know that I need to take it out, it needs to get to room temperature. I feed it, I take a piece of the starter, I stick it back in the fridge. So it is, for me, a 3-day process. So it takes planning and preparation, but I think it's a good thing.
I am not touching the whole sourdough thing. My best friend does it, so I get it whenever I see her. That is I just won't get. But one thing I did do is because I do love cooking, is I have signed up for some meal delivery services. I have both Hungry Root and which is really easy. A lot of the stuff's kind of pre-cooked, but mostly organic, which is great. And that's easy if I have a babysitter watching my kids sometimes, because I have like some kind of volunteer event or otherwise, they could just easily run something. But the other one I have is Green Chef. And so that's feeding my whole desire to be in like the kitchen and serving. And I love doing that. And so they have some really good dishes and it's really delicious.
Check it out. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah.
So I want to share with the audience, what are some overlooked opportunities for women in commercial real estate? And how can we start claiming more of them?
I would say speaking. So one great thing is my friend Allison White from Commercial Real Estate Recruiting has created a speaker bureau for women. So I think One place for women is getting yourself like out there. I'm just going to speak all over to women. So no matter where you are in your career, so maybe you're hearing this podcast now and you're just getting started, creating that personal brand. That's something I just spoke to a number of CCIM mentees. And, showed them my whole 10 commandments of, creating personal brand and the things you should do to create personal brand. And then put yourself out there because you can keep augmenting it as you grow. Like my friend Karina Noor, she's putting herself as I'm a CRE rookie and owning where she is. And I think by that name, people want to reach back and help her. So overlooked parts for women in commercial real estate is first, again, creating that brand, owning where you are, and so people can connect with you. Secondly, as you progress in your career, looking for those speaking opportunities. Third is perhaps creating groups in your own market to network with other women and, again, bring each other up.
All of that. Thank you for sharing. Yes. I love the stat that over 85% of all consumer purchases are made by women. So maybe not so much industrial, maybe not so much office, but retail should 100% be dominated because we are creating the spaces that we shop, dine, experience in.
Sure.
So, I've been trying to pull more of us together.
Interestingly enough, I'm an SAOR and I've always done tons and tons of office and industrial. I've been doing majority retail this year, and it's I guess that's kind of where I'm going, which is great. It's hard though, because Orlando is like about a 3% vacancy. It's pretty fierce, but
It shows how good you are, Amy.
Always up for a challenge.
For sure. So having had the experience of burnout and boundaries, what do you do? What works for you to kind of stay in the zone of joy and excitement? And probably some of that is working with these entrepreneurs because the entrepreneur spirit is just infectious. So
it is.
Tell me what works for you.
So a couple things. I would say, first of all, what really helps me to not burn out is having kind of buckets for my week. And so I kind of have a flow for my week, as you probably do. But Mondays is usually the mundane internal team meetings and getting things set and making sure, what did we accomplish last week? What are we going to accomplish this week? What do we have coming up? And going through all of that with my project manager and my team. And Tuesdays tends to be more of client meetings out in the field, those types of things. Wednesday tends to be more content creation, marketing, those kinds of things. Thursday, I don't get much time for myself in the evenings and the weekends as much. I do go golfing, and being out in that field is great. So it's not all day. It's usually until like 12, but I golf. And then the afternoons is more like admin, anything I haven't gotten to. And then I call Fridays Flex Fridays because it's a free for all. And I'm literally just trying to get whatever hasn't gotten done for the week done. And so it's a hot mess. It's a hodgepodge. But I start definitely Monday and Tuesday is super strong client work, just 100% focused. And then Wednesday has some content creation mixed in, and that's one way. And then I would say I generally try to have some bookends, for each day where, I start the day with meditation. I also try to get in a workout before I take my kids to school. If not, it's the very next thing I do, even if it's just 20 minutes. I don't stress out if it's not an hour. At night, reading. I try to read at least 10 to 20 pages a night, and that does add up. And just different things like that, and having healthy habits and repeating them daily and consistently adds up.
I agree. It's those little moments that are consistent, and once they're together, that puzzle is complete.
And then completely turning my phone off if I need to. I mean, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine for a while.
I posted something on LinkedIn not too long ago about how all of a sudden I'm just getting all these calls, and I'm going, I don't know 90% of these numbers coming in. So for those of you who know me, send me a text. Let me know you've got a new number or something like that. But, just because you have my phone number doesn't really mean you get access to me.
Are you getting a lot of people calling again and again and again, like multiple times in a row? I get that from my listings where literally I'm on a conference call and I'll get a call, and then I'll get a call, and then I'll get a call. So I'll call that person back and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And like, well, I was calling on your listing. And I'm like, yeah, but I was on the phone. Like, what possessed you to just keep calling? Like, I don't
And I think they don't often know that it's a human being on the other side. Maybe they're assuming they're going to get some machine or something. But I do appreciate the people who will call once, and if they don't connect, then they'll opt into text, which is totally fine because, like you said, if you're on the phone or something like that, you could at least say, "Hey, I got your message. Let me finish this up and I'll give you a buzz back," or, we can correspond via text and get things rolling in the right directions. Yeah, I think a lot of times too, people are out and about driving around and maybe don't have something with them to write the number down. And so they're just trying to, lock up. The other thing that we've been doing differently is we've been putting a little, like a number or a code next to the property or on the sign. So that way, when they're calling, they're not going, "See your sign and I'm interested." Well, which property are you calling about?
You're putting like a number on it.
We have to identify it in a way where it keys us in to know where they're at and what they might be interested in learning about.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so we typically put our sign up, space or future restaurant or whatnot. We do a QR code and we do the phone number, but underneath the sign, we'll typically put Old Town Lilburn, or we'll put a number, Old Town Lilburn 4. And so they can at least reference that, because hopefully they've taken a picture and then they're referencing the picture.
Yeah.
Who knows? But, all we can do to help kind of connect the dots so we're not shooting in the dark in trying to figure out where they're calling about.
Written down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy to share all of my wisdom with you. It's taken years to assemble, but that's what we're here for.
I get text all the time. I got this sign. And then I'm like, where are they?
Right. Yeah. Or a color code or something like that. We do more tenant rep than listings, so it's easier to kind of figure that out because there's not so many of them, but still it's nice to have that reference point.
Yeah, we're still heavier tenant rep and buyer rep and occupier rep, but we still have a few.
Absolutely. So I'm curious to hear how your success had been defined previously and maybe how that's evolved in the time that you've had your company.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, when I was early on, I guess it's been an evolution. So I'm in my 15th year now. So I think, if you think about it in different periods, it's kind of changed. And so I would say in the first 5 years, I was just focused on getting done whatever deals I could get done and getting people to answer the phone and trying to get some traction there. I would say the next 5 years was, more so building credibility, and I worked on getting my CCIM, and I was every year increasing that. I didn't really care about how much business I was doing the first, 5 years, because also I do share that I had overlap. I was still leaving my husband's law firm at that time, but the next 5 years was building credibility, building a name, I wanted to increase year by year by year by year how many transactions and what I was flowing. I think getting my CCIM in 2018, which was about 8 years in, was really transformational for me. And they say generally that your commissions increase by about 42%. And I found that to be true, actually almost down to the exact percentage of what it was in 2018 versus 2019. I had, huge growth. And I found a lot more people were answering their calls. I think the last 5 years, except for the first couple where I kind of refound myself, I think I was really chasing prestige. I bought this building and I wanted to, have this big firm, and I had this idea, and I think I was a bit more, I don't want to say egotistical, because I think that's a negative connotation. But armed with letters behind me, with experience, I feel like I wanted to even prove myself. I could do these things. But what I didn't realize was I was perfectly enough. And then I didn't realize that I really enjoy working directly with the owners, and that I was losing that and not being able to communicate directly with the owners and be that strategist. And instead, having to be a manager of the organization was not my true calling. And so I'm grateful I stuck through it and then got kind of back to where I started, but in a different lens. And so today, I would say I define satisfaction. I define success as being able to get my work done, get it done to my clients, satisfaction, but then still being able to be involved with my children. I think my children have a much greater emphasis in my life than they did necessarily the first few years when I was chasing this prestige, which ultimately kind of burned me out, which did burn me out.
Yes. No, I think it's important for others to understand, because what I love about our industry is that there's no ceiling, right? You work, you do deals, right? There's no limitations.
Uh-huh.
It's just a matter of making sure that you're respecting yourself and your time and your energy, because for the most part, that's all we can give our clients is our knowledge, time, and our network. And so we got to make sure that we're getting compensated for that. So what trends are you seeing either locally in retail and office that get you excited or make you step back and pause?
What trends am I seeing? Well, I'm really seeing areas not in the downtown core really just light on fire and continuing to grow. So areas to the north of Orlando, like Winter Park, areas to the west, like Winter Garden, those communities have been undergoing a huge, transformation in leveling up of the tenants that you see there. And actually in Winter Garden, I landed, a 1925 property, kind of like Main and Main. And the owner will be putting in a restaurant downstairs, and I'm the landlord rep there. So it's kind of fun. But, those areas, like really desirable areas that have a huge sense of community, that's a trend I'm seeing. People still want to have that. I think you saw that in COVID, and that is still here to stay in our particular market. I think also what's kind of driving growth here in Orlando is increased amount of 5-star hotels. We are starting to see, we always had the same hotels for like a long time, and maybe we'd have some pop up over by Disney. But with the Epic Universe coming here to Orlando, we have just some incredible hotels, and that's going to bring even higher level visitors here, which is going to be great for retail. I think you just look 5 years from now, Orlando's going to be even more robust than it is right now, with this new infrastructure being put in place with Epic Universe and stuff.
No, I love that, and I've had the chance to ride the Bright Line a couple of times. So yes. Little expensive, I feel, but it was a pleasurable experience.
Yes, I got to ride the Bright Line. My son's passport expired. I found out like a week before our international flight, but it was good. I got to go down to Miami. It was awesome. He loved it. He had been asking for months, and then here we go. I forgot to renew his passport, so he got his wish.
So it worked out exactly as it should have.
But the Bright Line, I think it's a little too expensive too. I think people might do it more if it wasn't so much.
Maybe it's a slow roll early on, and then it will open up for additional passengers. But it's an enjoyable experience, and you don't have to be in the car. You got Wi-Fi, you got comfortable seats, you got bathrooms. Perfect. I wish we had more trains nationally. So if you could give advice to your younger self or to others looking to enter our industry, what would you share with them?
I had the opportunity to speak to a group of CCIM mentees earlier this week, and what I told them is, have a vision of what you're going to do, even if it might change, but have some general vision when you're getting into the industry. That doesn't mean that you can't do something else, but if you have a vision of where you're wanting to be in 1, 3, and 5 years, that each step you're taking day by day should be leading you forward in that particular direction. If you have no vision, you don't know where you're going. That's what happened to, I had vision when I first started my firm, but then when I was lost, I didn't really have a vision. I just visualized a whole bunch of people on my website. It was not a vision. Now I have a vision of, I want to see my owner at the closing table super happy that they have their own building and they're their own landlord. Or if they're signing a lease, they're super happy with the lease and they have a place where their business is going to grow. So kind of visualize in your mind who it is that you want to serve, and what you want to be known for and what goals you're working towards. And then each step in your journey should be congruent with that. So for instance, if you know that you're wanting to represent restaurants and all these kinds of things, then maybe you're not spending time in SAOR, you're spending all your time in ICSC, and you're making sure that the time that you're spending is aligned where you want to go. Not to say that if you have a friend call you and like, hey, can you be my tenant rep on an office deal, and you're just getting started and you have someone to give you advice, do it because you need some money. That's advice to my younger self or anyone is to have a vision, write it down. It can change. Life is like being on a sailboat. Is if you have that vision, you're going to tack here, tack here, tack here, but eventually you're going to get to where you're going to go if you have that vision and you have that discipline and determination.
Percent. So I'd love to close out our conversation with hearing a little bit more about your goal for your book. What was in mind? How has perhaps that changed? And where are you anticipating it will go? Is this maybe the first of more? Or maybe you're getting too far ahead of yourself? Like, let's just start with one and then we'll go from there. So share with us a little bit more about that journey of writing the book and where you want to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I feel like this is my first book. One thing I really learned about myself is in right-sizing my brokerage and making it more impactful for my clients and me and my family is I have more time to ideate and to create. I love those things. And I feel by giving myself the ability to create, I am a better strategist for my clients. I do better work for my clients. And so this, yes, absolutely will just be book number one. Book number two, perhaps, will be a little bit more about building a service-based business for yourself that serves you and your family, and how, to be that little giant that, still has a big impact, but, maybe is right-sized for you and maybe geared towards women or family-focused people, and how to do that and still provide great service. But no, I think this is the first of many. It was a really great experience. As far as specific goals for the book, I'd like to sell over 500. It would be great. Anyone that knows, has some folks that would benefit from this. I feel like it's really beneficial for women just getting into the industry to kind of break free from that perfectionism and live life on their own terms and maybe stay away from some of the burnout that I did. And again, it's a bit about my story, but again, it goes into the sports success system, which I think anyone can use. If you're going to get a copy for you, maybe get one or two for a friend. But I'd like to reach the 500 mark. I'm about halfway there and want to keep rolling. And if it goes further than that, that'd be great. If I'm able to get on a talk show to talk about it and more podcasts, that's great too. And get this message out there. Because I think authenticity is great. At the end of the day, only a third of people are going to like you. A third of people aren't going to like you, and a third of people are going to be indifferent. So if you are online a different version than when you're here and you're a different version over there, you're just causing stress and anxiety yourself, and you're not connecting with the right people. By being authentic, you're going to, especially if you're in commercial real estate, by being authentic online in your personal branding, you're going to reach the right person and everybody's going to be happy. It's going to be kumbaya.
I appreciate you sharing those stats, because I was on a podcast earlier and the gentleman was saying that he and his team did ethical stalking of me just to ensure that my messaging, my story, my personality was the same across all the platforms. And he goes, "You checked out. I like you."
Wow.
I'm nervous about it, but it was just fun the way that he presented it, that I've ethically stalked you just to make sure, right? Like that, with me opting to come on your podcast, that I'm aligning my brand with yours and that I'm, connected. So
yeah,
I thought that was really sweet.
Well, I get some crazy requests to be on my podcast, but that's an episode for another day.
Well, I'm going to take you up on that, because I can only imagine the stories. Kind of like, again, having listing and all of the interesting calls you get about what people want to open on your clients' properties. Yeah, I have so many of those. There's almost a blog that we need to put together that's like, calls from the listing signs that just, everybody randomly can just pop in whatever they got a call about. I think it will be quite comical.
Or when they won't tell you what they want to put in there. Then it makes you like, what do you want to do? If you won't tell us, we can't show it.
Or if they ask you what you want them to put in there.
Yeah.
It's a good one too.
Oh, well, awesome. This has been great.
Thank you. Likewise. Well, Amy, thanks for joining us. I'm especially inspired how you lead with vision and grit and generosity, and how you continue to break barriers while lifting others up. To our listeners, if today's episode sparked something in you or reminded you of the power of bold leadership and community-driven business, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us spotlight voices like Amy's and others who are shaping a more vibrant, inclusive future in commercial real estate and beyond. Until next time, keep showing up fully, chasing big dreams, and always lead with hustle and heart.
This is Amy Calandrino, and you're listening to Hustle and Heart.